Alright, today we're going to be discussing plant A and F in the P-Tech lab. We're going to run both plants. We're going to discuss the purpose of each plant, the function that each plant performs, and we'll also hand out a copy of the procedures, the startup and the shutdown for each plant. Plant A is an introductory plant. It's the plant most students run first before they run any other plant in the lab. It doesn't really have any complex systems. It's just got the basic types of equipment and controls that gives a student practice on and will enable them to have a basic understanding of how to run the other plants in the lab, which have some more complicated equipment and more complicated procedures. Plant A has 3 control valves. We have a level control valve, we have a temperature control valve, and a flow control valve. And level, flow, and temperature are the 3 process variables we will be controlling on this plant. Each level control valve is controlled by a board mounted controller. As you can see over here, it's just a very simple controller. It has buttons for the set point for manual and automatic mode. It has up and down keys to adjust the settings for the set point, the output of each valve, and so on. Safety devices for this plant: there's pressure relief valves on the heat exchanger. There's a thermal well and a low flow switch on the heater. The low flow switch shuts down the heater in the event of a short circuit or just an upset or a loss of flow and to the heater. It shuts down the heater and keeps the heater from overheating. Okay, see, we have 2 centrifugal pumps which are used to move liquid through the plant. We're going to be moving the liquid from tank 103, and we're going to be circulating it through the heater first, then the heat exchanger, then back into tank 102. Now the level in tank 102 is controlled by the level control valve, which is level control valve 102 is controlled by the board mounted controller LIC 102. What happens is there's a drain line from tank 102 into tank 103. It has 1 block valve on the between tanks 102 and 103. The level control valve, it opens and closes to regulate the level in tank 102. As it regulates the level in tank 102 according to whatever set point the operator sets it at. To start off, the flow will be pumped out of tank. The water will be pumped out of tank 102 with a centrifugal pump. It will then be sent to the heater, which will heat the water to 120 degrees Fahrenheit. From there, the water is sent to the heat exchanger, which then cools the water back down. The heat exchanger has a cooling water flow which circulates on the shell side of the exchanger, and it cools off the processed liquid going through the tube side. We have a temperature control valve which controls the rate of the cooling water flow through the exchanger. And then from the heat exchanger, the water is then sent to tank 102. The flow into tank 102 is controlled by a flow control valve 103, which is controlled by board mounted controller FIC 103 according to the set point. Let's see. And then the shutdown procedure is basically the startup procedure going backwards. Now on plant F is just a wastewater treatment plant for the rest of the plants in the lab. All the wastewater from the other plants is sent to the collection tank in plant F, which is then pump to tank 610, which is they call it the neutralization tank. The written purpose of Plant F is to neutralize water from the other process plants using an acid and a caustic solution, which is mixed into the neutralization tank in certain amounts to keep the pH at a neutral 7. But since we're not using real processed water, we don't actually use the acid and the caustic. All we really do is pump the wastewater from the other plants from the collection tank 601 to tank 610. Tank 602 to tank 610. Tank 610 is then drained to the sewer until it is just above the suction line. And we don't want to go below the suction line because the pump will run dry and this can damage the pump. Well, that's the basic rundown on plants A and F.